It was Christmas Day in Tennessee. While families across America were opening presents and enjoying holiday meals, 6 inmates were about to give themselves the ultimate gift: freedom. These 6 men were locked up in the Cocke County Jail. Some were awaiting trial for serious crimes. Others were serving time for drugs and robbery. One of them was a dangerous career criminal who had nothing to lose. The jail they were in was falling apart. The walls were crumbling, the pipes were leaking, the cell doors could barely lock. One of the inmates noticed that a toilet was loose because of water damage behind the wall. He realized they could pull the toilet out and escape through the hole. It was a crazy plan, but it just might work. On Christmas night, these 6 men made their move. They pushed the toilet aside and crawled through the wall to freedom. But escaping was just the beginning of their problems. Now they were fugitives with nowhere to go and police hunting them down. How long could they stay free? Where would they hide? Would they make it to the new year as free men? Or would they be back behind bars? Keep watching and enjoy. Our story took place in December 2019 at the Cocke County Jail in Tennessee. This was not a state prison, it was a county-level jail. You might wonder what the difference is. A county jail holds 3 types of prisoners. First, there are people waiting for their trial who have not been found guilty yet. These people have different rights because they have not received due process. Then there are people serving short sentences for misdemeanors and small crimes. And finally, there are people who have been sentenced and are waiting to be transferred to the state prison system. The Cocke County Jail held all 3 types of prisoners mixed together in the same facility. The conditions in this jail were terrible. The building was old and falling apart. Water leaked from the pipes constantly. The walls were crumbling in many places. Some of the cell doors could not even lock properly. The jail had a history of maintenance problems that had never been fixed. The facility was also overcrowded with more inmates than it was designed to hold. On top of all this, the jail was understaffed. There were not enough guards to watch all the inmates. This problem got even worse during the holidays when many guards took time off to be with their families. Some called in sick. Others simply did not show up. The inmates noticed all of this. They knew when there were not enough guards watching them. And they knew that Christmas would be the perfect time to make a move. The man who would lead this escape was named David Wayne Frazier. Frazier was not like the other inmates in this county jail. He was a career criminal who had spent most of his adult life in and out of prison. He was awaiting trial for aggravated robbery and possession of a deadly weapon. These were serious charges that could put him away for a long time. Frazier was 37 years old, and he was dangerous. He had no problem using violence to get what he wanted. A man like Frazier did not belong in a poorly run county jail. He belonged in a maximum security facility. But the system had put him here, and now he was going to take advantage of it. From the moment Frazier arrived at Cocke County Jail, he started watching everything around him. He noticed the crumbling walls. He noticed the leaking pipes. He noticed how few guards were on duty at any given time. He noticed that some cell doors did not lock properly and that inmates could move around after lights out. Most importantly, he noticed that the toilet in one of the cells was loose. The water leak behind the toilet had been going on for a long time. Nobody had fixed it. The constant moisture had made the wall behind the toilet soft and unstable. Frazier realized that if they pushed hard enough, they could move the toilet right out of the wall. Behind that wall was an old chimney structure that led to the outside. This was his ticket out. But Frazier could not do this alone. He needed help to push the heavy toilet out of the wall. He also needed men he could trust to keep quiet about the plan. He started looking around the jail for potential partners. Experienced prisoners have a way of communicating silently. They can tell when someone else is thinking about escape. They can sense when another inmate might be interested in a dangerous plan. Frazier used these skills to identify the right men. The first person Frazier approached was a young man named Harse Wade Allen. Allen was only 24 years old, and he was not a career criminal. He was just a kid who kept making stupid decisions. Allen was serving a short 45-day sentence for violating his probation. He was supposed to get out soon anyway. But when Frazier told him about the escape plan, Allen was interested. He did not want to spend Christmas in jail. He wanted to be home with his friends. Allen agreed to join even though he had very little to gain and everything to lose. This decision would turn out to be one of the worst mistakes of his life. Frazier recruited 4 more inmates to join the escape. Stephen Edward Lewis was being held on serious charges. He had been arrested for possession of drugs with intent to sell and possession of a firearm. Lewis knew that if he was convicted, he would be going to prison for a long time. He had every reason to want out. Eric Click was another recruit. Click was doing time for a long list of crimes including evading arrest, felony possession of narcotics, driving on a suspended license, and joyriding in a stolen car. He also had 3 probation violations on his record. Click was the kind of guy who could not stay out of trouble no matter how hard he tried. John Spear was the next to join. Spear was serving a multi-year sentence for various drug crimes and theft. He had a long history of making the same mistakes over and over again. When you add up a lot of small crimes, they become big ones. Spear had been in and out of jail so many times that he knew the system inside and out. He could tell that Frazier was up to something just by watching him stare at the crumbling chimney and the broken toilet. Spear indicated to Frazier that he was interested and approved of whatever plan he was cooking up. The last recruit was John Sheehy. Sheehy was 38 years old, and for a brief time, it had looked like he was turning his life around. But his upcoming trial for criminal trespass and arson had put an end to that idea. What made Sheehy different from the others was his reputation in the jail. He was known as a religious man. He went to Bible study every Sunday. The guards saw him as a God-fearing inmate who caused no trouble. Keep this in mind because Sheehy's reputation would play an important role in the escape. Now Frazier had his team. There were 6 of them in total. He gathered them together in the jail cafeteria and told them he had an idea to share. He said it was a hush-hush thing, and he needed everyone at the table to give an answer before they got up. John Spear spoke first. He said that judging by the way Frazier had been staring at the old chimney and the broken toilet mounts, he could already guess what the plan was. Frazier smiled and asked them a simple question. How would they like to be home for Christmas? Frazier explained the plan in detail. They would push the toilet out of the wall and break through to the old chimney behind it. The chimney led down to a thin metal door at the bottom. Once they kicked through that door, they would be outside the jail. The plan was simple, but it had risks. They had to do it at night when there were fewer guards. They had to be quiet so nobody heard them. and they had to move fast once they were out because the guards would notice they were missing at the next head count. The 6 men agreed to do it on Christmas night when the jail would be at its most understaffed. It was just past midnight. Christmas Eve had become Christmas Day. While families across Tennessee were sleeping peacefully, the 6 inmates gathered in the cell with the loose toilet. The moment had finally come. Frazier told everyone to put their hands on the toilet and push on the count of 3. But before they could start, one of them asked a question. He wanted to know if they were pushing on 3 or after 3. Another inmate said it was a fair question because they needed to push at exactly the same time. Frazier got angry. He told everyone to shut the hell up and do what he told them. He said hands on and on 3. Then he counted. 1, 2. But before he could say 3, they heard footsteps approaching. A guard was coming. Frazier quickly told everyone to hide in the bathroom stalls. The 6 men scrambled to get out of sight. You might wonder how inmates could be out of their cells in the middle of the night. The answer is that the jail was so poorly run that some cell doors could not even lock. Inmates were not fully confined after lights out. They could move around to some extent. This was one of the many security failures at Cocke County Jail. The guard walked into the bathroom area and saw John Sheehy standing by himself near the sinks. Sheehy had to think fast. Everything depended on what he said next. He told the guard that he came to the bathroom to find somewhere quiet to pray. Remember that Sheehy was known around the jail as a religious man. The guards had seen him go to Bible study every Sunday. They knew him as a God-fearing inmate who caused no trouble. The guard looked at Sheehy for a moment. Then he nodded and walked away, leaving Sheehy alone. The other 5 inmates could not believe it. Sheehy had just saved the entire escape with his quick thinking and his reputation. After the guard left, they tried again. Frazier counted to 3 and they all pushed with everything they had. But then one of them suddenly told everyone to stop. He had noticed something behind the toilet. There was a pressure pipe running along the wall. If they broke this pipe while pushing the toilet out, the whole place would be flooded in 2 minutes. Water would spray everywhere. Guards would come running to see what happened. They would all be caught and probably beaten for trying to escape. They needed to turn off the pipe before they could continue. But to do that, they needed a wrench. You might wonder where 6 inmates could get a wrench in the middle of the night inside a jail. The answer once again shows how poorly run this facility was. There was a maintenance room nearby that was not properly secured. The inmates were able to sneak out of the bathroom and make their way to the maintenance room without being seen. They found a wrench that would work and grabbed it. One of them also accidentally caused a spark while looking around, which scared them. But nobody came to investigate. They made it back to the bathroom with the wrench. One of them used the wrench to turn off the pressure pipe. Now they could safely push the toilet without flooding the place. Frazier told everyone to put their hands on one more time. He said they all knew the drill. On 3. He counted 1, 2, 3, and they pushed with all their strength. This time the toilet moved. It came right out of the wall just as Frazier had predicted. Behind it was the weak, crumbling wall that had been damaged by months of water leaks. They broke through it easily with their hands. On the other side of the wall was the old chimney structure. It was dark and dusty, but it led down to the outside. The 6 men climbed into the chimney one by one. They made their way down carefully, trying not to make too much noise. At the bottom was a thin, rusty metal door. This door was the only thing standing between them and freedom. They kicked it hard. The metal was old and weak. It gave way after just a few kicks. Suddenly, they were standing outside the jail in the cold night air. They had done it. They had escaped from the Cocke County Jail on Christmas Day. The 6 men stood there for a moment, taking it all in. They were free. But Frazier quickly reminded them that they had no time to celebrate. Come sunrise, the guards would do a head count. When they realized they were 6 inmates short, they would send out a search party. Police would be looking for them everywhere. Frazier told the others that the cops would be gunning for them literally. The 6 men said their goodbyes and wished each other a Merry Christmas. Then they split up and went their separate ways. Each of them was now on his own, trying to find somewhere safe to hide. John Spear had nowhere else to go, so he went straight home. His family was happy to see him. His brother Daniel welcomed him with open arms. They did not fully understand how serious the situation was. They thought maybe he had been released early or something. Spear did not explain the truth. He just enjoyed being home for a few hours. But he was nervous. He kept checking the window over and over again. His brother told him to stop and sit down, but Spear could not relax. He knew the police would come looking for him sooner or later. Harswade Allen made it to a trailer park about 2 miles from the jail. He went to a friend's place and knocked on the door. His friend took a while to answer because he had been sound asleep. When he opened the door and saw Allen, he was confused. He asked Allen when he got out. Allen said he just got out. His friend asked if they let him out for good behavior. Allen joked that it was the Christmas spirit. His friend had never heard of a jail letting prisoners out for the holidays, but he did not ask too many questions. He invited Allen inside to celebrate. Allen was happy to be free, but he was also falling apart inside. The stress of escaping and being on the run was getting to him. A few days earlier, when he was still in jail, someone had offered him drugs and he had said no. But now the pressure was too much. He told his friend he was breaking down and needed something stronger than weed. His friend warned him to wait it out for a few more days, but Allen insisted. He said he was sure. This decision would cost him more than just his freedom. Back at the Cocke County Jail, the guards discovered the escape on Christmas morning. They found the hole in the wall where the toilet used to be. They saw the broken metal door at the bottom of the chimney. Sheriff Fontes got the call that 6 inmates had escaped from his jail on Christmas Day. He could not believe it. 6 inmates had pushed a toilet through a wall and walked right out. It was a disaster and an embarrassment. The sheriff immediately sent out officers to find the fugitives. He knew the first places to look were the homes of family members and known associates. John Spear was the first to be recaptured. Police went to a home in Cosby, Tennessee, where they believed he might be hiding. They were right. Spear was there, just as they expected. He was arrested less than 12 hours after escaping. His Christmas freedom had lasted less than half a day. When you escape from jail, you should never go home. That is the first place police will look. Spear knew this, but he went home anyway because he had nowhere else to go. Stephen Edward Lewis tried to be smarter about hiding. He managed to get a change of clothes so he would not look like an escaped inmate. He went to stay with an old friend and tried to keep a low profile. He stayed off the main roads and avoided crowded places. But on Christmas Day, while he was walking through a neighborhood, he had a very close call. A police car drove by slowly. The officers inside looked at him. Lewis felt his heart pounding in his chest. He was sure they were going to stop and arrest him. But then one of the officers rolled down the window and said, "Merry Christmas." Lewis said Merry Christmas back and kept walking. The officers drove away without stopping him. Lewis could not believe how close that was. But Lewis was not safe for long. Later that day, police spotted him again, and this time they recognized him. A chase began. Officers chased Lewis block after block through the city streets on Christmas Day. Lewis ran as fast as he could, but he could not escape. Eventually, the police caught up with him and arrested him. Lewis was back in custody. Eric Click was trying to get out of Tennessee completely. He got into a car with someone and started driving away from Cocke County as fast as he could. He thought if he could just get far enough away, he might have a chance. But a patrol car spotted the vehicle and pulled it over. Click and the driver were arrested without a fight. By Christmas evening, just 17 hours after escaping, 3 of the 6 inmates were already back behind bars. Harse Wade Allen was still free, but not for long. The stress of being a fugitive had pushed him to seek comfort in drugs. He kept asking his friend for something stronger. Finally, his friend agreed to help him find what he wanted. They went to meet a drug dealer. Allen had the cash and was ready to buy. But when he tried to make the deal, police jumped out and arrested him. Allen had been serving just a 45-day sentence for a probation violation. If he had stayed in jail and served his time, he would have been out in a few weeks. Now he was facing serious charges for escaping. His short taste of freedom would cost him years. John Sheehy, the religious man who had saved the escape with his quick thinking, was also recaptured. He had gone to his father's house, hoping to find shelter. When he arrived, his father told him that police had been there just 2 minutes earlier looking for him. Sheehy had actually been hiding in the shed out back while the police searched the property. His father gave him some food because he was starving, but then his father told him he could not stay. Sheehy said he had nowhere else to go. His father said, "Yes, you do." Sheehy knew what that meant. He would have to keep running. But there was nowhere left to run. Sheriff Fontes held a press conference to update the public. He announced that 5 of the 6 inmates had been recaptured. Only 1 was still on the run. That one was David Wayne Frazier, the most dangerous of the 6. The sheriff pleaded for public assistance in finding Frazier. He warned everyone that Frazier was dangerous and armed and should not be approached. If anyone saw him, they should call the police immediately. David Frazier managed to stay free longer than any of the other 5. While they were getting caught one by one, Frazier was on the move. He made it all the way out of Tennessee and into Georgia. But 3 days after the escape, police finally caught up with him. Frazier was arrested and brought back to Cocke County. The last of the 6 fugitives was finally in custody. The Christmas escape was over. The escape made news across the country. People could not believe that 6 inmates had escaped by pushing a toilet through a wall. The story exposed the terrible conditions at the Cocke County Jail, the overcrowding, the crumbling infrastructure, the understaffing, the broken locks. Someone had to answer for this failure. The fallout cost Sheriff Fontes his job. Once the dust settled, he turned in his resignation. As for the 6 inmates, their Christmas gift turned into extra years behind bars. All of them celebrated New Year's Eve in jail right back where they started. We have come to the end of our story. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next video.